All right, thanks to my buddy Andrew, we have this Henry 4570 to shoot and review today. This one specifically is the model HO10B, which has the 22-inch octagonal barrel. If this would focus, thank you. Oversized lever there, tube feed, and you got this buckhorn rear sight here with the brass front bead. So the provided ammunition by the owner today is this Hornady Lever Evolution. It's 325 grain FTX bullet, but I'm happy to report I was able to trade in some Black Cloud waterfowl loads this time in exchange. So that's what your cartridge looks like there, and I was rather intrigued by this because to me it basically looks like a Magnum version of my 450 Bushmaster. And in a sense, that's kind of what it is, because you got the 45 caliber bullet. You can get it in the same weight. This one, as I said, is a 325 grain. However, they also offer this in a 250 grain. So it's basically in the 250 grain offering, shooting this basically the same bullet as my 450 Bushmaster, but you got a longer case there with a little more powder capacity. So what's interesting about that, though, is the 250 grain loading of this Lever Evolution in 4570. They're only propelling the projectile at 2,000 feet per second, which is a resulting 2,200 foot-pounds of energy. But my 450 Bushmaster, loaded with 250 grain projectile from them in the Hornady Custom line, is going 2,200 feet per second instead of 2,000, which pushes the energy level up to 2,600 foot-pounds of energy. So that makes the 250 grain load from them more powerful in the 450 Bushmaster than it is in their 4570. However, the 325 grain version that we're shooting here today is also 2,000 feet per second, which delivers 3,000 foot-pounds of energy. So for some reason, on the 250 grain loading of this Lever Evolution in 4570, I guess they went for a light load with that. So basically that 250 grain load's like a light load, whereas this 325 we're shooting here today is like a heavy load. Also, some conflicting information here. On their website, it states with a 200-yard zero, just like here on the box, you are 3 inches high at 100, but 27 inches low at 300. However, on the box here, you can see that it's giving different specifications. So no clue why that is, but we're just shooting iron sights here today, so that doesn't affect us a whole lot, although I would like to try to get out to 300 yards if possible. I'm going to have to play with that adjustable ramp there to figure out where I need to hold and whatnot. To try and do so. I'm sure we can accomplish 200 today, but I'm really hoping for 300. But we also only have this one box of ammo here to get it done. So I set up a target down there at 50 yards, and I'm going to take a shot at that to see where we're impacting. Currently, it's set on this third notch here, so I'm not sure why it's there, or if it comes from the factory from there, or if that's how he has it set. So I may or may not change that for this 50-yard shot here. I don't know. I'm gonna look it up real quick, see if I can find what each notch is for. Of course, it's going to vary greatly depending on which load you're using. Not seeing a safety on there. Alright, well, I think we'll leave it on that third setting there in case that's where he was hoping to have it, and just see where it hits on the paper down here at 50 yards. I'm sure those 250s I was mentioning probably aren't that bad, but those 325s, man, they do pack a wallop. The thing kicks pretty good. Well, I suppose not having a rubber butt pad here probably doesn't help, but yeah, you definitely feel that in the shoulder with those 325s and no butt pad. All right, well, I did hear it hit paper, and I think I see it here. We had a few other little holes in here from previous videos, so that's interesting that it was on the 3rd setting and we hit clear down here. I was pretty much just doing a 6 o'clock hold on that. So pretty close, you know, the fact that it's off to the right a little bit, probably just me. So take a shot at this gong here and see where we hit. I don't know if the bullet's going to continue to rise further out. I'm almost inclined to believe it will, considering that we're already halfway up that rear ramp on the setting. Because to get it to line up here, I would have to put it on the very topmost setting to get it to hit bullseye at 50 yards. So due to that, I'm inclined to believe the bullet's still rising. So I guess we'll find out on this 100-yard target here. So like I said, we're halfway up the ramp there on the 3rd notch, and that was only 50 yards. So I'm going to shoot at this steel plate here. Now usually I have this hanging from a hook, but it kind of broke, so I can't utilize it right now. Not happy about that. So I had to just find something to lean that up against. So it would ding louder if it was hanging from the hook, but I don't think we're going to have a problem with this 325 grain bullet hearing it. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take a center shot on that with a center hold. So basically I'm just going to cover the very center of that target with the front bead, let one rip and see where she hits. So we should be able to see if it hits low or not. All right, so I reviewed the footage there, and it does look like we just hit the very bottom of that. So it is in fact low. However, and I mean, I know it's a buckhorn style, but that may not be the 100% proper term there. Let me see if I can get a focus on this. So it has different aim points. It's kind of hard to show on camera there, but it has different aim points, and I'm trying not to move so it doesn't change focus. So the hold I was using, I was putting that brass bead in that bottom notch just above that white triangle there. Okay, now you can see that there's a square above that, so you can bring that front bead up to about the current position, and you can see it there kind of blurry in the front, and that will bring your point of impact higher. And then I guess you could see I had it down here is how I was shooting, like this. But if you go like this with that front sight, it'll bring your point of impact up. And then I don't think you're supposed to bring it this high, but that would have the same effect. So I know to at least this point, it would bring it up. Well, and so would this, but I know at least up to this point, it's actually intended to be used for that, where you'll just pivot the rifle with that front sight to line it up to a different point in that rear sight there to change your point of impact. So I'm going to go ahead and give it 2 clicks up and see where we're hitting at 100. All right, so we'll try this again. Now going up 2 notches might be too much, but I'm thinking it should be about right, but we won't know till we send one down there. So I've moved it up 2 notches like I said, and I'll use the same hold, center hold on that gong down there, and we'll see where we hit now. Whew, that is not feeling good on the shoulder. All right, so as you can see there, that was too high, so it looks like we just needed to go 1 notch up. So I'll set it back down 1, so we'll be pretty much zeroed for 50 and 100 yards, and I'm going to move this thing out further and see if we can get some hits further out. All right, you should be able to see a white dot there sending a scream. We're out there at 200 yards now. All right, after seeing that first shot was high there, I adjusted my hold a little for the second shot. And I pulled it off to the right. So then I tried again. That time we got a good, pretty centralized hit there. And then I did that, but I was having a little issue with my shoulder, which I'll explain. So yeah, if you guys have ever gone back and forth between standing and shooting off a bag, the recoil, it's like multiplied. The gun doesn't quite sit right on your shoulder off the bag. So this thing was chewing me up. So I decided to start shooting at this buffalo here at 150 yards instead. It was a little easier to hit, obviously being closer and a little larger. That way it'd be easier on my shoulder. So I'll just show you what it did to me here real quick. That way you'll know I'm not being a big baby, and then you maybe you'll be a little more interested in what I have to say over the next minute or two here about it. So that was my shoulder after shooting this thing. And it's kind of hard to tell from the picture, but there was actually a bluish purplish ring around that red mark, a bruise. Alright, so anyways, shooting off a bag, the recoil is, at least perceived recoil, or just whatever you would call it, when you sit down at a table and rest a rifle or shotgun or whatever on the bag, it hurts a lot more than if you're standing up or crouching using said shotgun. I don't know if your shoulder and your bones and your collarbone and all that twist and rotate, but whatever the reason may be, try both one day. Take something that has a lot of recoil and shoot a few standing up, and then shoot a few off a bag, off a bench, and you'll see what I'm talking about. A lot of you already know what I'm talking about, but for those who don't, try it. You'll see what I'm talking about. So I'm not one to complain about recoil. If you guys have watched the channel very long at all, I never ever complain about recoil. I handle it pretty well. I can stand there all day and shoot 3.5-inch super mags out of a 12 gauge, which is pretty much equivalent to a 10 gauge shell, all day long, and be perfectly fine. But if you put it on a bag on a bench, it's going to kill you. So I would say this thing recoils about like a standard 12 gauge slug does. But the fact that there is no rubber butt pad there to absorb any of that recoil, just that brass plate, that's what was killing me there. So standing up, it actually wasn't that bad. Like I said, about like a 12 gauge deer slug, which I could shoot those all day long. But off the bag, especially with that brass plate, absolutely killing me. It was just digging into my shoulder there. Like I said, you can see the picture. So I think that was affecting my accuracy a little bit, because I was actually in pretty extreme pain, because I was injured. So with that, I gave up on 200 yards, and I also think that's why I was kind of all over the place at 200 yards, because every shot was just killing me. So I stood up, and that's why I went for the buffalo that was 50 yards closer and a little larger target. And so I was taking shots at that. So I still didn't do great on that, but like I said, my shoulder was already pretty messed up at that point, so it was affecting my accuracy a little bit. Plus those were standing shots at 150 yards, so take that for what you will. But anyway, so that's why we canceled the 200 yard shots and went for the buffalo at 150, which, by the way, other than being lower to the ground, I'm not sure what scale that buffalo is. But other than being low to the ground, the chest cavity on it is probably about the size of a white-tailed deer. So just to give you an idea of what we were shooting at there. Like I said, standing shots, 150 yards. I had to find where to hold, and then it wasn't too difficult. But I still don't think my accuracy was that great because my shoulder was already messed up. So guys, I know this is supposed to be a review video, so I guess I'll give my thoughts on the rifle now. So overall fit and finish was, pretty good. Obviously for a $900 Henry, that's about what you would expect. So no issues there, obviously. However, I did have a few performance issues, if you want to call it that. I had one out of the whole day, and I did end up shooting this entire box, although I did not show all of those shots in the video. I had one that kind of like, I don't know, I'd call it misfeed or whatever you will. I had to jiggle the handle back and forth a couple times to get it to feed. I assume this is probably a common thing for a 4570 cartridge, and that it's nothing to do with Henry whatsoever. And there's a very long cartridge you're trying to load there with a very heavy bullet in the front. So naturally that cartridge is going to want to tip forward. So I could see how that it could occasionally cause a slight feeding issue, which is exactly how I would describe what I encountered. It just kind of like didn't go for a second. I backed up the lever about an inch and then went forward again, and then it fed. Aside from that, and you actually see it at one part in the video, every time I loaded the tube magazine and then I would lock the tube into place, the spring pressure from the tube bed magazine, I would pop open the lever. That was kind of annoying, to be quite honest with you. So obviously that's also not a big deal. It just popped it open, so all you had to do was shut it and then the rifle was loaded. If you wanted to avoid that lever popping open when you lock the tube feed into place, you could just simply hold on to the lever, and obviously it's not going to pop open on you there. But I didn't personally like the fact that every time I try to lock the tube into place, it would pop the lever open if I didn't hold it shut. So as I said, I think the feed thing is probably common for a 4570. I don't really know because this is actually the first one I've shot. And then the lever popping open when I lock the tube feed into place, press it down and lock it into place. I've never encountered that either, but this is also the first tube feed lever action I've ever shot. So maybe that's common also. I'm not sure. Every lever action I've ever shot prior has always been the side gate feed. The trigger on it's excellent. 5 to 6 pound break, I would say. Zero creep, very crisp break. So very nice trigger. The sights on it, even with that 22-inch barrel sight radius, I would say they're decent at 200 yards for a large game. Beyond that, probably not so much. And that's not a thing anyways. I would say that's pretty average. I don't think most people shoot 45-70 beyond 200 yards. So in conclusion, guys, I have no complaints with this rifle other than how the lever kept popping open on me when I would close the tube feed on a fully loaded magazine there. But like I said, that could be completely normal for a tube feed on such a rifle. I have no clue. Don't ever plan on shooting this from a bag more than 2 or 3 shots. Again, that's not a complaint because that's just by design. Like I said, if you can handle a 12 gauge slug, standing up with this is going to be no issue, which is kind of the ideal behind a 45-70. It's not exactly a bench rifle. So don't plan on shooting any off a bag, at least not more than 2 or 3, and you'll be fine. That said, if you do plan on shooting 45-70 from a bag, definitely look for an option with a rubber butt pad there. That's going to do it, guys. Thanks for watching. If you made it this far till the end, I really appreciate it. If you want to get yourself anything you see in the video, steel target, target holder, bag, and many more things, links in the description. Thanks again, Andrew, for letting me borrow this monster of a rifle. You guys let me know what you think in the comments, and I hope to see you all on the next one.